welcome to Geek SLP TV, episode number 24. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my favorite application of all times. Not because I've developed this app, because I have developed 30 apps, but it is just my favorite app. Not only because it saves us so much time, but because it's so different from anything that is out there. And it is the Sunny Articulation Phonology Test. I have already done a podcast on that application, but because it was a prior version and we have changed so much the way the app looks, I wanted to do a podcast specifically to show you guys all the features that are available on the Sunny Articulation Phonology Test. And let's go ahead to the screen of my iPad so you guys can see what Sunny Articulation Phonology Test is all about. So you guys are taking a look at the screen of my iPad, and I have just launched Sunny Articulation and Phonology Test. To the right of the screen here, to the left, you see a list of the students that I have already entered. But if you just open your application, you're going to want to add a student, and then you're going to click here on the name and enter a name. And then you select the date of birth. I'm just going to select something randomly, click Done, and click OK. Now the student that I just entered, Paul, is right there. The age for the student has been automatically calculated based on the date of birth that I just entered. Now what I'm going to do is select one of the students to start my assessment. Here I could select different students. And I'm going to go ahead and select Annie because Annie's prepared for this. And I'm going to click here on the top right corner on New. This new screen called the Start a New Assessment pop-up has the option for a full evaluation or a screening. Now what I'm going to do is click on Screening, and you see the target word, you see the word transcribed on the bottom. Then on the top you have a phonetic transcription of the word pickle. If you click on the P, it becomes red, which means that the initial P has been misarticulated, mispronounced. Now if you go to the next word, you see that transition sound saying fantastic. You can do that for every single sound.
Fabulous.
Now what I'm going to do is click on the home button and go back to the main screen. This brings me to the home screen, which shows all of the different testings that I have completed or not for my student Annie. Now you see something that I completed on today's date. Actually, all 4 assessments were completed today. This one, I believe, was the one that we were working on for stamp. If I click on that, it takes me exactly to where I left my assessment. So if the student was interested in finishing up the assessment that day, I can just exit and click on it later, a week later, and goes back to the same page instead of to the first page. Now I'm going to go back to home. I'm going to click on New again, and I want to show you full evaluation. Now, the full evaluation and the screening, they both analyze the errors, the articulation errors and the articulation patterns, but the full assessment will give you an option for the specific errors. So if the student here, instead of saying snake, said nake, I click on the SN, and what was that? That was a cluster reduction. So as you can see,
fantastic.
On the full assessment version for Sunny, you click on the sound. For example, instead of saying bicycle, if he said icicle, that gives you a new pop-up screen, and you can choose deleted. And you can move on.
Fantastic.
Now what I want to show you also on this specific screen is the ability for you to be on one side of the assessment and the student is on the other side. If you click on this item, on this button right here, it rotates the top portion. So you could sit on this side and the student is sitting on this side. So the target image is facing your student while the area where you're going to mark the errors is facing you. I'm just going to face it back because the student and I are the same person today. Another thing that you can do with Sunny is record the voice of the student saying the word fork. fork. All of these recordings are gonna be saved, and you can access this recording at a later time. I'm gonna tap on the word fork.
Fork.
And you can hear the pronunciation of the word fork that comes built in on the application.
Well done.
Now, it's also possible for you to take notes along the way. So if you want to type something about the students or the students' articulation skills, you go ahead and you save right there.
Terrific.
I'm just going to go ahead and mark some errors here so you guys can actually take a look at the images.
Nice. Well done.
Now, also, if you want to change some of the settings, you can click on Home, and here we have a button for settings. You can turn off those transition sounds, and you can also turn off the display the written word. If you feel like the student is reading the word and you just don't want that word showing on the bottom, you can just hide that. And also, you see I turned off the transition sounds, which are, well done, good job, the praise that the student would get as they're doing the assessment. Something that I've done and was really successful is I used to get my student to press the next button every time they said the word, and they loved it because they got to actually touch the screen and participate on the assessment. The assessment just went by super quick. Now, instead of going through all of the, I believe, 35 images, I'm going to go to a almost finalized assessment. And I believe stars is one of the final words on Sunny. And I'm just going to click here and mark a ST, cluster reduction. And then tree. I'm going to keep marking a few errors here because I wanted to show you that on the last image, you were prompted to enter the overall intelligibility rate for that student. I'm just going to mark 50%. And this completes your assessment. Now it's the time when we are going to analyze the results for Sunny. I know this is very fast-paced, but Sunny comes actually with a built-in video tutorial that you can watch, and there is also a manual. But I just want to give you folks a general overview of Sunny because the last video I've done, it was an older version. I felt it was about time for me to record a new version of Sunny. So I'm going to show you guys here. I have 2 complete assessments. And here's what we're going to see. Data administration, raw score. The raw score is the total number of phonemes minus the number of phonemes that you marked as being wrong. So in this case, 74. Then the overall intelligibility rate is whatever you selected, 50%. And the status is complete. If you have a status complete on an assessment, you can click on complete, and we're going to take a look at the results. Now, the results are automatically calculated for you immediately after the assessment. You have your initial, middle, and final position of the word. We can clearly see that this student is having initial constant deletion. Of course, he has 92%. This is a fake student that I just tried to show you guys how easily you could try to see some patterns on the results of Sunny. Now I'm going to click on manner, and you can see the fricative 65%, and it breaks down by specific phonemes. Then you scroll down, liquids 80%, your plosives, nasals, affricates, clusters. Now we can clearly see here the breakdown that the clusters are 18% accurate, and also the fricative 65%. Now liquids, plosives are around 85%. Now if we go to voicing, we can see that the voiceless phonemes are having more of an issue here than the voiced. And on the words tab, you can actually see the breakdown of specific errors by each word. So here on snake, SN is in red, and it shows deleted. Now for bicycle, your B was substituted by a P. And you scroll down and you see the whole list of the words that are targeted on the full assessment version of Sunny. Now if you go on error, I'm able to see exactly the total percentage of errors and also the breakdown by types of errors that you marked on the assessment. We can see here that initial consonant deletion was 36%. Then we had consonant cluster reduction, 26%, some substitutions, and some distortions. Now, the interesting thing is if I click on this plus, I could review the notes that I entered. I could email the results. I could preview some audio recordings, and I could also print the results directly from my iPad. I'm going to click on email results, and what happens is Sunny creates an overall report with information about that specific assessment date. You have student's name, student's date of birth, age, date of administration, type of assessment, and raw score. Then on the results, I'm just going to start reading a little bit. Annie's articulation skills were evaluated on December 5th, utilizing the Sunny Articulation Phonology Test. The Sunny Articulation Phonology Test is an individually administered qualitative clinical tool for screening, identification, diagnosis, and follow-up evaluations of articulation skills in English-speaking individuals. And then if you scroll down here, it explains the different types of results. The manner of articulation is a parameter used to describe how the structures and so on and so forth. Here's all organized for you on the table. The specific words targeted, error type, and you can just email this to yourself as soon as you're done with the assessment. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel, delete, and you can do this for every student. There's no limit on how many students you can enter. And I hope you enjoyed, and that was it for the Sunny Articulation Phonology Test video demo. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Geek SLP TV, episode number 24.